The Ducks finally make a trade a week before the trade deadline and during last night's game. We'll talk about that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade. A reminder that this podcast is free and available across all platforms, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I'm currently the PA voice for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and I've also been covering the Ducks minor league on various platforms. And today we're going to start with a trade that took place during the game last night at the San Jose Sharks. So let's backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack to about 6:35 p.m. when we were hearing, or news was circulating, that Ilya Lyubushkin would be held out of the lineup for trade reasons or trade possibilities, basically what was going to materialize. So Lyubushkin was left off the lineup. I'm like, okay, so a trade is going to happen. Is it going to happen before the game? Is it going to be after the game? I honestly thought that a trade was going to take place after the game. That's what I was anticipating. And then the game starts, and right as the game starts, I see the newswire, that there was a trade made right around puck drop. Can you believe this? It was official that the Anaheim Ducks traded Ilya Lyubushkin in part of a three-team deal, a three-way deal with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So here's the breakdown of the trade. I don't have the graphic with me right now, but I can break down exactly what this trade is. Toronto receives Ilya Lyubushkin, 50% retained. The AHL rights to Kirill Slepets, who is in the KHL right now. Carolina, they acquire a sixth round pick from Toronto for this year, and they also retain 25% of the remaining contract in order to broker the deal. And the Ducks receive a 2025 third round pick. All right, so essentially the Ducks gave up Ilya Lyubushkin for a third round pick. But let's backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack to 7 months ago during the offseason when the Ducks acquired Ilya Lyubushkin from the Buffalo Sabres for that 2025 fourth round pick. So basically the Ducks traded a fourth for Ilya Lyubushkin, and then they flipped him 7 months later for a third round pick. So I would call that an overall win from that standpoint. But how did the Ducks get that fourth round pick to begin with? You got to go all the way back to exactly 1 year ago. This happened, well, legit. This happened 365 days ago. Yes, because of the leap year, it's 365 days that the Ducks made a deadline deal move. Oh, remember the John Klingberg signing? Luckily, it was only a 1 year signing, but that was not a good signing. The Ducks signed him for $7 million for one season. Klingberg had a bad season, so the Ducks traded him to the Minnesota Wild for Andre Schuster, Nikita Nesterenko, and a 2025 fourth round pick. So that's how the Ducks got the fourth round pick to get Ilya Lyubushkin, and then got him for a third round pick. So essentially, I mean, if you really think about it, the Ducks signed John Klingberg, and they traded him for Schuster, Nesterenko, and what wound up being a third round pick. It's not bad. Considering the really crappy season that Klingberg had, to get him for Nesterenko essentially and a third, I mean, if you think about it in that long term, hell yeah, you take that. You take that every day. So that is the breakdown of that trade. So what does this trade do for the Ducks? Well, one, it gives them yet another draft pick in what's going to be a much better draft next season. This year's draft is looking to be sparse. It's looking to be decent. The Ducks need a top 3 pick in order to get something worthwhile with their first round pick. So that's what's at stake for 2024. But 2025 looks to be a better draft all around. Just looking at like some of the early projections, 2025 is looking to be pretty solid. And there looks like there could be a lot of sleeper picks in next year's draft. So I think if the Ducks wants to look for more picks for 2025, honestly, I wouldn't mind it at all. Yes, I know that delays the the as one former GM would put it, the retooling. It's not a retool, it's a rebuild. This is a rebuild at this point. Yes, it delays the rebuild by another year, and this will likely keep the Ducks out of the playoffs for another year. But you have to think about these things. And I'm sure Pat Verbeek is thinking about these kind of things in the long term. What do the Ducks want to get out of these draft picks? Do they want to keep these draft picks? These are all things that a GM has to think about. And I'm sure Pat Verbeek is not done yet, because we still got a week to go in the trade deadline. And Frank Vetrano is still a Duck, and Adam Henrique is still a Duck. We've got a week to go. And by the way, there are 2 teams playing tonight. Adam Henrique used to play for that team. So, hey, you never know. And I suspect that there's going to be a lot of scouts at tonight's game at the Ponda, and there's going to be a lot more scouts on this weekend's game. So let's just all keep an eye out for that. And by the way, there's also been a lot of scouts, just from what I've been hearing. There's going to be a lot of scouts at tonight's game in Ontario. Why is that game important? That game is very important because the Gulls have pretty much played themselves out of a playoff spot. As I mentioned on the previous podcast, there's probably not much of a chance for the Gulls to make it in the playoffs now. So maybe the Ducks are going to be looking to trading some assets from San Diego as well. I know Gulls fans do not want to hear this, but it's time to sell. It's time to sell from some of the Gulls players as well. So there's a lot of scouts in Ontario for tonight's game. A lot. Yeah, scouts are looking at the Ducks and the Gulls. All right, we're going to head to the first intermission right now and talk about last night's game. We'll get to that on the other side. Now a brief word from FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And I'll give you an easy bet for Saturday. LeBron James breaks 40,000 points. Yeah, that'll happen on Saturday. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, futures, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and please gamble responsibly. We're also brought to you by Logix. You know, on this show, you get a lot of in-depth analysis and hot takes, right? Well, let me give you my hottest take of the day. The best lineup in LA and surrounding areas right now is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off at the top with my favorites, the proven and dependable new and used vehicle loans. Count on these guys to give you low rates and save you big-time bucks. Next up, they've got an exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. Rounding out the lineup, they've got their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you could lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. Look, I know it's a hot take, but no one can beat the lineup at Logix. Visit your local Logix branch right here in the LA and surrounding areas and let one of their amazing team members help you out. Or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com/car. That's logixbanking.com/car. Logix is a proud sponsor of For the Troops. For more information on the upcoming For the Troops Gala tomorrow, visit www.forthetroops.org/event for more information. Let's talk about last night's game against the San Jose Sharks. This was a game between two bottom feeders. Let's be real here. I get it, bottom feeders, fish, sharks. I loathe myself for that pathetic joke, folks. I'm sorry. So two bottom feeders between the Sharks and the Ducks. Yeah, John Gibson in goal. I don't know why, for whatever reason. I mean, it is a back-to-back. Dostal's probably going to start against the Devils. So Gibby gets a start against the Sharks. Okay, fair. Very fair. This looked like it was going to be San Jose early on in this game. Anthony Duclair netted one very early. So, yeah, it looked like the Sharks were going to kind of pull away on this game. They looked like the better team for the first few minutes, and then I had to hit the road. But listening to Duck Stream, and by the way, I have said this a plethora of times. Duck Stream gets slept on. Steve Carroll is still one of the best radio play-by-play guys in the business. Emerson Edom has gotten way more comfortable in that color commentary role. He has done a fantastic job being the yin to Carroll's yang. So I love hearing those two on the radio. And of course you have Alexis Downey being that third person. Just love that trio. So listening to those three, I didn't have to hear any of the TV guys mistake Pavel Mintyukov for Ilya Lyubushkin. Yes, they did it twice. And then I'd had enough. Luckily, I had to hit the road, so I wouldn't have to hear that BS anymore. But just listening in, Emerson Edom did mention how much stronger the back check was getting. And he also praised the Ducks for clogging up the zone a few times, which I think led to a couple of Ducks goals. One of those being Leo. That one I did watch. I did watch Leo Carlson goal. That one came right after Duclair. Great backhand. And then Brett Leeson with the shorty. It was at this point I was like, oh, the Ducks look bad. The Ducks look really bad. And then all of a sudden, Brett Leeson comes to the rescue and scores a shorty from the aforementioned Pavel Mintyukov, not Ilya Lyubushkin. Sorry. So it was 2-1 Ducks. Hallelujah. Yes, the Ducks did get themselves in trouble early in the game. Yeah, they came out a little bit flat. Okay, a lot flat against probably one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League. And then they decided, oh, crap, we got to wake up. We got to actually, play these guys. So that's really what happened. And listening further, listening to the second period to Duckstream was incredibly entertaining. Steve and Emerson just had a field day with some of the sloppy play that was going on, and also gave credit to the Ducks power play, but also they were talking a little bit of smack on the penalty kill. They were not anything really bad, just the sense of they're not doing enough. The penalty kill is not really using an act, they're not engaged enough. They're just kind of not going through the motions, but there could have been a little bit more effort on the PK, which, you know what? That happens game to game. You see the effort go from 100% to maybe 90% or something like that. We've all seen it. Game by game. There are those lulls in the game where you lose a little bit of energy, and it happens. And that happened with two Sharks power play goals. But the Ducks came back and scored two power play goals of their own in kind of a crazy second period. Every time I just kept hearing Steve Carroll say, goal! It was great. It was just so entertaining to listen to. And one player that Emerson really praised big time, and I love that he's getting his flowers. Jackson Lacombe. Jackson Lacombe is part of the reason why the Ducks were able to trade Ilya Lyubushkin. Lacombe has come a long way this season. I think Jackson Lacombe is one of those players that opponents kind of sleep on a little bit, but he's a very important part of this team, and he's going to continue to be very important on, it looks like the second power play unit until Olin Zellweger shows up. Then Zells might get in some second unit power play time. But looked really good. Yeah, I know, pups. And then after that, it was just all Ducks. Isaac Lundstrom with an empty netter. Final score was 6-4 in favor of the Ducks. They outshot San Jose 30-28, which was fine. John Gibson, the defensive effort in front of him was not there for all 60 minutes. So I know that John Gibson is going to want to get the taser once again because we've seen it happen time and time again. Have I said this a plethora of times this season? Yes. Is it continuing to happen? Also, yes. Is John Gibson probably getting a little bit frustrated? Also, yes. Those can all be true. But is John Gibson still playing as best as he can and making the key saves when he can? Also, yes. All of those things are true. That being said, God, someone help John Gibson, please, or just give him the damn taser already and just let him, right to his teammates. Just give him a minute alone with the taser and his teammates and see what happens. All right, we're going to head to the second intermission right now and just talk about the next couple of games coming up. Stay locked in. Now a brief word from, who do we got? A brief word from Game Time. Hey, one of my favorite apps of all time. If you have not used Game Time before, what are y'all waiting for? You can get last minute tickets at some very good prices. And I think the game of the night tomorrow is going to be at Staples Center, which is the Lakers against the Nuggets. LeBron James set to record his 40,000th point. Big deal in the NBA. You can get last minute tickets. They have flash deals. They have zone deals. So the ticket prices are not too bad for tomorrow night's game at Staples Center. And you could see the view from your seat and you could pretend that you're there watching the greatness that is LeBron James. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. We're going to keep this one really short today for time constraints. And also, as I've mentioned the last couple of days, there is some important games going on in Ontario, which is the reason for the time constraints. San Diego Gulls are in Ontario at Toyota Arena. Yeah, that's a mightily important game for the Ontario Reign, who have won a slew of games. I think they've won like 4 or 5 games in a row, but they've looked a lot better, folks. So that is taking place at Toyota Arena tonight. Gulls at Reign. Down the road from Toyota Arena I will be for most of the day. So I'll, see Gulls Reign. And then after that, guess what? It is Game 1 of the Pacific Division semifinals in the USPHL between the Las Vegas Thunderbirds and the Ontario Junior Reign. I've mentioned one of the assistant coaches is former Anaheim Duck, Andrew O'Brien. He'll be on the sidelines. So if you want to come by and check that out tonight, it is Game 1 of the playoffs just down the road from, literally down the street from Toyota Arena. So check it out at Ontario Center Ice Arena. As for the Ducks, they've got a pretty heady schedule coming up. They've got a crappy team coming up tonight. The New Jersey Devils. The Devils, to say they are disappointing is a gross understatement, folks. They have been terrible. I don't know if they're going to win this game. Yes, even though I am all for the tank, I don't think Chicago is going to win another 5 games this year. San Jose looked bad. I don't think they're going to win another 5 games. So I don't see the Ducks getting worse than 3rd for the rest of the season. So you know what? Get this W. Get a winning streak of 2 games. And you know what? Clobber the Devils. Yes, I mentioned LeBron James twice because I know a certain someone is likely watching this and is a big fan of LeBron James. Yeah, Kobe's better. Anyway, yeah, clobber the Devils tonight, Ducks. I mean, I just want to see the Ducks just hammer them like 8-1. And I hope Olin Zellweger gets a crap ton of points in this one. Oh, by the way, Olin Zellweger got called up. Yeah, Olin Zellweger is now up with the Anaheim Ducks. He is expected to play in tonight's game at the Ponda. I know I mentioned this on Goals Thursday for the last 2 weeks. I mentioned this earlier in the week at Acrisure Arena, so I'm going to say it again. Olin Zellweger is too good for the AHL. He deserves to be in the National Hockey League. He has played way too well with the Gulls to stay in San Diego. I know about 2 months ago I said, well, the Ducks could do their shenanigans again. No, they shouldn't. No, they should not. Zells should spend the rest of the season up with Anaheim. Give him that experience. So that's what is going on. After the Devils, the Ducks are playing against the Vancouver Canucks. Ooh, Vancouver just lost a tough game to the Los Angeles Kings. They might be angry. We'll see how that one goes, folks. So next 2 games, Devils and Canucks. And then to round out the next week, we got the Ottawa Senators and the Dallas Stars. Yes, I know I just said the Dallas Stars goal song, but I love me some Pantera, folks. I mean, come on, who doesn't love Pantera? All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. Once again, thank you all for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're on your way to the Ponda, hope you have fun at tonight's game and root for a big win against the Devils. If you're a Gulls fan on your way to Toyota Arena, hey, who knows who you'll run into. If you're going to check out the Junior Reign at Center Ice Arena, let me know. Drop me a line on X at StimpyJD or the show's X at LO_Ducks. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. Once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great weekend, folks. I'll see you during the weekend. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.